friends, it's Deanna Willison with Our Blooming Catholic Life. I'm coming to you today. First, we're going to do a quick unboxing of the Wendell Berry book, bringing it to the table, and then I'm going to come back another day and film an actual review of it. But people really like me just kind of opening the book and discussing the format. So, Bringing It to the Table by Wendell Berry. It's subtitled On Farming and Food, and the introduction is by Michael Pollan. Cute little, art scene there. It is kind of interesting because I guess everybody just has rosy cheeks in the photos, but it almost looks like they are wearing their little red bandanas, like COVID times. It's kind of funny. Let's see. Open it up. It is copyright 2009. Oh, sorry. It lists a whole bunch of his other Wendell Berry's other books. The copyright is 2009, all rights reserved, blah, blah, blah. Misery, whatever that is, says first appeared in Shenandoah, which looks like it was, I don't know if a magazine. I guess it's a magazine because it says winter 2008. A little bit of biographical data. It's interesting, the keywords here listed are agriculture, United States, family farms, farmers, antidotes, local foods, and sustainable agriculture. So that's just a hint. There is what you might see in the book. The jacket design was by Silverander Communications. So that's who did that picture in the front. It's by Counterpoint Books and distributed by Publishers Group West. If you see me kind of struggling, the print in here is legit tiny. It is crazy tiny because look at the margins around it. There's no need to be that tiny. It's kind of just ridiculous to me when they do that. That's just a total waste of paper, which is just kind of funny. It's about, sustainable agriculture and stuff, and then they waste pages with margins. I do like to annotate books. Like here's my St. Francis of Assisi's admonitions. I like to annotate a little bit. So sometimes margins are nice, but this is a bit excessive in here. I'll show you. This is kind of what an average page looks like. So super tiny print. And yeah, there's generous margins for annotating, but I am going to have to probably wear my monofocals to read this or read it like that. That's no fun for anyone. Okay, let's get into this a little bit. So there's an introduction. Part 1 is on farming, 2 is farmers, 3 is food. So that's the entire table of contents right there. There's nothing else. So under farming, it has like nature as a measure, stupidity and concentration, agricultural solutions for agricultural problems, a defense of the family farm, let the farm judge, energy and agriculture, conservationist and agrarian, sanitation of the small farm and renewing husbandry. On farmers, it has 7 Amish farms, a good farmer of the old school, Charlie Fisher, a talent for necessity, Elmer Lapp's place, on soil and the hearth. On the soil and health, agriculture from the roots up, and part 3, food, has an author's note, from that distant land, from Hannah Coulter, from Andy Catlett, from Misery, from the memory of old Jack, from Jaber Crow, from Hannah Coulter, and the pleasures of eating. I don't know what those are because most of those are in italics, like they're from a magazine or something, so I'm going to have to look that up. It's weird. I bought this book new, but there's legit notes in the back ripped out of a notebook. I'll have to look that up later. I don't know what that's about. That's really funny. Okay. Was it new when I got it? Now I don't know. The introduction. I'll just read you the intro to the introduction to get you a warm up here. A few weeks after Michelle Obama planted an organic vegetable garden on the south lawn of the White House in March 2009, the business section of the Sunday New York Times published a cover story bearing the headline, "Is a Food Revolution Now in Season?" The article, written by the paper's agriculture reporter, said that after being largely ignored for years by Washington, advocates of organic and locally grown food have found a receptive ear in the White House. Certainly, these are heady days for people who've been working to reform the way Americans grow food and feed themselves, the food movement, as it is now often called. So let's see. He's argued this Wendell Berry really pioneered this conversation, I think. Because again, that introduction was by Michael Pollan. I don't honestly know who that is. Okay, I'm just going to open it up and read a section. This is the very beginning of the book. Remember, this section is called Farming. So nature as measure, and in parentheses it says 1989. I live in a part of the country that at one time a good farmer could take some pleasure in looking at. When I first became aware of it in the 1940s, the better land, at least, was generally well farmed. The farms were mostly small and were highly diversified, producing cattle, sheep, and hogs, tobacco, corn, and the small grains. Nearly all the farmers milked a few cows for home use and to market milk or cream. Nearly every farm household maintained a garden, kept a flock of poultry, and fattened its own meat hogs. There was also an extensive support system for agriculture. Every community had its blacksmith shop, the shops that repaired harnesses and machinery, and stores that dealt in farm equipment and supplies. Now the country is not well farmed, and driving through it has become a depressing experience. Some good small farms remain, and their farm stands stand out in the landscape like jewels. But they are few and far between, and they are getting fewer every year. The buildings and other improvements of the old farming are everywhere in decay or have vanished altogether. The produce of the country is increasingly specialized. The small dairies are gone. Most of the sheep flocks are gone. And so are most of the enterprises of the old household economy. There's less livestock and more cash grain farming. With cash grain farming comes in, the fences go, the livestock goes. Erosion increases and the fields become weedy. Like the farmland, the farm communities are declining and eroding. The farmers who are still farming do not farm with as much skill as they did 40 years ago, and there are not nearly so many farmers farming as there were 40 years ago. As the old have died, they have not been replaced. As the young come of age, they leave farming or leave the community, and as the land and the people deteriorate, so necessarily must the support system. None of the small rural towns is thriving as it did 40 years ago. The proprietors of small businesses give up or die and are not replaced. As the farm trade declines, farm equipment franchises are revoked. The remaining farmers must drive longer and longer distances for machines and parts and repairs. Very depressing scene there. So we're going to flip to much later in the book and just give us a little bit. Oh, it's funny because I flipped. He is much later in the book. But this looks like it says 1985. A good farmer of the old school. At the 1982 draft horse sale in Columbus, Ohio, Mary Telline summoned me over a group of horsemen with whom he was talking. Oh, Maury Telline. Sorry. I told you it's tiny print. Come here, he said. I want you to hear this. One of those horsemen was Lancey Klippinger, and what Maury wanted me to hear was the story of Lancey's corn crop of the year before. The story, which Lancey obligingly told again, was interesting to me, as Maury had expected it to be. Lancey that year had planted 40 acres of corn. He had also bred 40 gilts that he had raised so that their pigs would be ready to feed when the corn would be ripe. The gilts produced 360 pigs, an average of 9 per head. When the corn was ready for harvest, Lancey divided off a strip of the field with an electric fence and turned in the 360 shoats. After the shoats had fed on that strip for a while, he opened a new strip for them. He then picked the strip where they had just fed, and that way he fattened his 360 shoats and also harvested all the corn he needed for his other stock. The shoats brought $40,000. Lancey's expenses had been for the seed, corn, 275 pounds of fertilizer per acre, and 1 quart per acre of herbicide. He did not say what the total cost amounted to, but it was clear enough that his net income from the 40 acres of corn had been high in a year when the corn itself would have brought perhaps $2 a bushel. At the end of the story, remember, Lancey and Maury had a conversation that went like this. Do you farrow your sows in a farrowing house? No. Oh, you do it in huts then? No. I have a field I turn them out in. It has plenty of shade and water, and I see them every day. Here was an intelligent man, obviously, who knew the value of doing his own thinking and paying attention, who understood clearly that the profit is in the difference between the costs and the earnings, and who proceeded directly to minimize his costs. In a time when hog farmers often spent many thousands of dollars in highly specialized housing and equipment, Lancey's hog operation consisted almost entirely of hogs. So he's looking at some of the old methods of farming and could they work today? I find that very interesting. Now, are some of the essays more up to date? Yes. I just turned in one called The Soil and Health, and that's 2006. So it'll be interesting to see the progression of time in each of these chapters. I'm finding that very interesting. So in the last section, this is saying it's some of these are from short stories. They give you some times. Christmas 1941. Very interesting. I'm not at all sure now what this book is. It's very confusing, but it tells the tales of farmers in America throughout the ages. And so as confused as I am by the book, I'm captivated, and I'm definitely going to read this very soon. You know, I'm reading about 5 books right now at a time. I'm reading the Sermon on the Mount. I'm reading one on the Desert Fathers. I'm reading Let the Fire Fall. I'm finishing up the 2 on Angela Merici. They're really short. And so now I'm going to add this friend in. And we're supposed to have a nice snowy day tomorrow. So maybe I'll just curl up in a ball and get this read. Maybe. God bless you, friends. Bye. Hopefully, stay tuned. Sorry, stay tuned. And I'm going to be reviewing this. This is just part 1, the unboxing. God bless.